Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another awesome video meetup. We've got a great show for you guys today. We're here to talk all about backing that thing up. And by Thang, we mean your virtual environment, whether it's Hyper-V, VMware, we got you covered. So for that, to learn more about that, we've got an awesome panel of experts for you guys that I'm really excited to have you guys meet. But before we get into that, I did want to cover a few housekeeping items. On your console, you should see all of our faces, along with the window that contains the slides. We also have a few other widgets that you might be interested in. So on the bottom of your console, there is a brown widget that allows you guys to chat with the other attendees. I think some of you guys have already discovered that, so hey, what's up, guys? And there is also, most importantly, there is a red Q&A widget in case you guys want to shoot us a question directly. Make sure you get those questions in through the Q&A widget, and we'll be taking them live on the show today. And lastly, there is a green resource widget where Unitrends has provided a lot of great links to supporting content for our discussion today. So, and plus, we've got some big news. We're going to be giving away a $150 Amazon gift card. So really excited for that. Definitely stick around to the end of the show. It must be present to win, and to be able to find out who the winners are. Well, like I mentioned today, we're here to talk all about figuring out what makes the most sense for the backup needs that you have. So for more on that, let's go ahead and start things off with a round of introductions so you guys can meet our panel of experts. As always, we're bringing together IT pros from the community as well as experts from the brands that are helping to put on this show today, which is in this case is Unitrends. So as always, we like to lead off with our IT pros. So coming to us first from the Green Bay area, everyone please give a warm welcome to Tony Stahl. Tony, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Now, Tony, you've been on the air before. You've been on a couple of video meetups, I believe, in the past. But for the folks that might not have met you before, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name's Tony Stahl. I work at Bay Lake Bank here in northeast Wisconsin. We have 24 branches spread out geographically quite a bit. Yeah, that's about it for me. Been in IT for quite a few years.
Okay. And Tony, you come to us from the Green Bay area. How's the weather in Green Bay today?
It was 60. What did I say? It was 61 degrees right now. Beautiful, sunshiny, warm day for Wisconsin in November. Can't complain.
Okay, so the frozen tundra has not set in just yet.
We're not frozen yet. No.
Okay. All right. So being from the Green Bay area, are you a Green Bay Packers fan? Is that?
Absolutely. There's no other way.
Okay, and so how are you feeling after that last loss? You still doing okay? Still relaxed, or?
Relax. R-E-L-A-X. Just relax. It's all right.
Which is exactly what Unitrends helps you do, with your virtual servers. And Tony, what is your username in the community? I think you have it posted there in your username, but.
Yep, it's my name backwards. It's L Hats. Why not? I guess you can pronounce it however you want to, but it's just my name backwards.
Okay. All right. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Tony. Our other IT pro also comes to us from the Boston area. Please give a warm welcome to Adam Gaduri. Adam, how's it going?
How's it going?
Adam, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm the senior IT specialist over at 47 Brands. So I handle all the management as far as system network administration, as well as implementing any IT solutions for the company.
Okay. Now tell us a little bit more about 47 Brands, because it's actually a pretty interesting company.
So 47 Brand was originally started in 1947 by a couple of brothers who started selling pennants out of Fenway, and basically has since evolved to its own brand, and we're licensed to sell all major league sports teams or apparel and headwear, so MLB, NFL, AHL. We basically sell at retail, wholesale, and also in the storefronts in a lot of the stadiums. Okay,
and then so the hoodie you're wearing, is that actually a 47 brand hoodie that you got on?
It is a 47 branded hoodie.
Okay.
Green Bay, so gonna love.
And then you live in the Boston area, but is that a Green Bay Packers hoodie that you've also got on?
Yeah, so Green Bay fan in New England territory, always fun to deal with, but.
All right. And Adam, what is your username in the community?
My username is same as my name, so Adam Gaduri.
Sounds good. So guys, you're in the community, follow El Hats Why Not, and follow Adam Gaduri, and they're going to be glad to talk to you. Now, representing Unitrends, we've got actually the VP, one of their VPs. Everyone please give a warm welcome to Dave LeClaire. Dave, how's it going today?
Good, Justin. How are you?
Doing well. Dave, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm the Vice President of Product Marketing here at Unitrends. Been in the industry for about 25 years in a variety of roles. Haven't always been in marketing. Actually started my career as an engineer, kind of went up, became a CTO, VP of engineering, and kind of flipped over to the dark side, started doing marketing and messaging and strategy a number of years back. So hopefully I'm a little bit more technical than your typical marketing guy.
Okay, so you're not just a marketing guy, you actually can talk to tech as well.
I sure hope so.
All right, and Dave, where are you calling us from?
We're also in the Boston area. I work out of our headquarters in Burlington, Massachusetts.
Okay, very cool. And Dave, what do you like to do for fun when you're not working?
I spend a lot of time with kind of pursuing my two daughters' interests. I have one daughter who's very into drama, another daughter is very into soccer, and spend a lot of time chasing them around during their activities.
Wonderful.
Also ski during the winter as it gets colder up here.
Has it gone pretty bad yet for you guys yet in Boston?
It's yo-yoing between like mid-70s and upper 20s, depending on which day you're at. It's the time of year that anything can go. Yeah.
Well, in Austin, it's a very cool 75 degrees, so that means everyone's already busting out the heavy sweaters and coats. I can definitely.
Yeah, thanks for rubbing that in.
Dave, well, thank you so much for joining us today. And
My pleasure.
last but not least, you guys might be recognizing her from either at Spiceworks, on live streams such as this, and just being around the community as the Green Gal, Katie. Everyone please give a warm welcome to Katie Friedman. Katie, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having us today.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining us today. Katie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I'm originally from Columbia, South Carolina, which is where Unitrends has our support and development team. And in the last couple of months, I was relocated to Cincinnati, Ohio for my husband's job. And so here I am, Cincinnati.
Okay, very cool. And Katie, what do you like to do for fun when you're not working?
Well, I like to hang out with my two black labs. We get outside quite a bit with those guys, and big South Carolina Gamecocks fan. So it's been a rough season for us this year, but still a lot of fun to follow the Gamecocks. All
right. Well, good luck to Spurrier in his last season. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Kate. So definitely make sure to get those questions in, guys. Don't forget to put them into the Q&A web part. So like we had mentioned, we're here today to talk about backing up your virtual environment, specifically, if you're running virtual VMware, if you're running Hyper-V, we're going to get you the answers that you guys need. Let's go ahead and start off with our IT pros and get kind of an understanding of their virtual environment. Adam, do you mind, or actually let's start with Tony. Tony, can you start off by talking about your virtual environment and kind of the applications that you run and kind of what backup means to you guys and how important is it?
Okay. We are a VMware shop. We have SQL servers, Exchange servers, application servers, both Windows, Linux, that I take care of. We back everything up locally. We have 24 branches, so we only have 3 branches that we actually back up servers on. Our main branch here, we have about 20 to 25 servers right now. They're all backed up to Unitrends 823 appliance, which are then replicated off-site to a geographically different branch, to an 813 appliance there. And then at 2 branches, we have one branch is an 813 appliance, the other branch is a 313, I believe, or a 312. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but they back up the physical server at that branch, at those specific branches, and then replicate them back to our main branch. And then everything is then archived to disk here, and then we bring that off-site every week, month, and year.
Okay, so you've got kind of the local backup. You're also backing up to other locations that you guys own. Is that right?
Yep. We're replicating to, I guess, our own private cloud is what you would call it.
I gotcha. And then tell me actually, what version of VMware are you guys running?
What version? 5.5 update 3. I haven't jumped to 6 yet. I don't know. I don't see the benefit quite yet. So.
All right, and as far as backup go, you guys are a bank, obviously. So the local offsite. I'm sorry, the co-located offsite backup seems to be important. What are kind of like your biggest concerns as far as backup?
Being able to restore. That's the biggest. Making sure it works. Yeah, we do anything from a single file restore. The bare metal restore is a benefit that we love to use. Well, we don't love to use it, but when we have to, it's nice to have. Being able to do granular restores on SQL and Exchange is a requirement. Being able to fire up a backup at a different site if we would have something made catastrophic go down at one of our branches, we can fire them up at on the Unitrends appliance at another branch. So it's nice to have all sorts of ways that we can recover from pretty much any disaster that would happen.
Okay. And Adam, what about you? Can you tell us a little about your virtual environment and what you guys do for backup?
Yeah, so like Tony, I'm a VMware shop as well. We have probably about 95% of our servers are virtualized, and we have a couple of physical machines as well that we back up. And we're backing up our main location. We're backing up to a 933 Unitrends appliance that is set up to back up, virtualize using agentless backup, as well as splitting out some of our servers like Exchange, SQL, using the agents so that we can get the granular restores out of those. And then our distribution center, we have a 913 or 713 backup appliance, and both the 933 and the 713 both replicate to the Unitrends cloud.
We're definitely going to want to hear more about your experience with the Unitrends cloud, but same question that I asked Tony. What were kind of your biggest concerns or drivers as far as backup?
So some of the biggest things, like Tony said, just having the peace of mind, knowing that if something goes awry, you can actually get a restore and be able to restore data in a timely fashion. We basically visited with the owners as far as what we wanted our RPO and RTO to be for our environment in our network. So when we looked at that, we basically just needed a solution that was able to meet those as far as, coming from Symantec with tapes, the recovery times that we're having were pretty large, especially when you're dealing with 5 gig, 10 gig files. Trying to do restore of those compared to the restore time that we get with the Unitrends appliances, much different. So we just need something where we could get those recoveries, and also the peace of mind of not having to worry about someone bringing tapes off site. What if they get into an accident? What if they had a fire where the tapes were located at? So we just wanted to make sure that as far as with our cloud replication, it's based far enough away from our location so that if in a disaster, we could recover that data and not worry about everything being lost.
Now, Dave, I wanted to ask you, both Adam and Tony are using VMware, but you guys, obviously have a big offering around Hyper-V. What have you guys seen as kind of being the biggest differences between backing up Hyper-V versus backing up VMware?
Yeah, and we do see VMware and Hyper-V kind of splitting the market. VMware probably skews a little bit more towards some of the larger customers, but more towards enterprise, and Hyper-V seems to skew a little bit more towards the SMB space. But Unitrends really tries to provide the same level of backup across all of our offerings. So we protect not only VMware and Hyper-V, we also protect Citrix Zen Server. We have, all told, over 220 different versions of operating systems, hypervisors, and applications that we back up natively. One of the things that I think is interesting that Adam pointed out was the ability to actually drop an agent or do an agentless backup. And that's something that we call deep virtualization, which allows you to actually kind of get the best of both worlds. You can actually have the simplicity of that hypervisor level backup that doesn't require an agent, but still when you need it for a specific application that actually needs either that granular insight into the application or the operating system, because you want to have a smaller backup window or you want to be able to have a smaller RPO, we're able to basically bring an agent down into that environment. And in the past couple of years across VMware and Hyper-V, we've really kind of closed the gap between the difference between the two of them. With some of the recent additions to our product in the past year, we've really kind of brought them up to par. So customers should really be comfortable with whatever one's kind of fits their environment. We try to make sure that we adapt to the customer's environment and what they're deploying, not make them adapt to our tool in order to use us.
I think that's a great
I mean, it sounds like there's been a lot of ground made, like you said, to kind of bridge the two gaps together. Either Dave or Katie, what were kind of the historic challenges of working with each of the different virtualization platforms that IT pros kind of struggled with in the past?
Well, originally, I mean, Hyper-V actually just wasn't as mature a platform. It wasn't as feature-rich. And with the past couple of revisions that have come out from Microsoft, they've kind of closed the gap on the difference between the two of them and really kind of brought them more on par. Now it's really a question of who you're more comfortable with, which ecosystem have you kind of bought into for all the surrounding tools. So it really is kind of up to customer choice. We do see some other hypervisors kind of nibbling around the edges. We do see some interesting things going on with containers, with people looking at things like Docker that may disrupt, the kind of power struggle that it is right now. But for the most part, I think if you're running on a VMware platform or a Microsoft Hyper-V platform, you should feel pretty comfortable with what you're running on. And we have the capability of pretty much delivering our full stack, whether it's the recovery assurance capability of testing your backups, whether you want to do backups to the cloud, whether you just want a simple backup and recovery solution locally. We can deliver pretty much anything across the platform.
And I think that Dave made a really good point a few minutes ago when he said, that you can adjust your backup to meet your environment's needs. What works in, for instance, Tony's environment may not be exactly the same thing that Adam does in his environment. Just having a solution that adapts to your environment versus making you do the backups the way that we want you to really means that you can protect your environment however you need to. Again, not the way that we say that you have to.
Now, Katie, Adam had mentioned that he's backing up to Unitrends Cloud. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that works and what do we need to know about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So customers who partake in the cloud, they have to back up locally so that they can do quick restores and just do the normal everyday things that you would do with a backup solution. And then you replicate that data to our cloud. And it gives you a couple of great options to choose from. Let's say that you only want to keep your most recent backup in our cloud. You can do that. You can back up multiple copies of your data so you can partake in our forever cloud. And then if you are an environment that maybe has really tight SLAs or are very prone to power outages, internet outages, things like that can heavily impact your business, then looking at disaster recovery as a service, which is a white glove service that allows you to send your clients back up in our cloud in the event of a full disaster or just, all my internet's gone out and I can't get back up online, then you can do that as well. So a couple of different choices there. And you can even replicate to a public cloud like Amazon or Google, or you can do what Tony is doing, which is that he's essentially created his own private cloud within his environment by replicating between multiple locations. So there's a lot of flexibility. Again, you can do it however you want to, not the way that we tell you that you have to.
Right. And so in that scenario, it sounds like the local backup is still the primary, and then the cloud is kind of in case that there's a fire and you kind of lose the appliance as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I think there's a couple. I think there's a couple ways to kind of look at it. You can either look at it as your primary backups are local, so you can have that speed of recovery, whether it's for someone deleted a file or I lost an individual VM, and then your cloud is there either for kind of disaster recovery or long-term retention. Our Forever Cloud solution's designed actually to kind of cost-effectively move copies of your backups off-site into the cloud and to hold them for literally an infinite period of time. So you can actually have a smaller appliance. You don't have to keep all your local copies of your backup local. You can push a lot of them off to the cloud. So I think that's one of the advantages of the Unitrends cloud is we provide a solution that is kind of a single throat to choke. You can kind of get your local backups as well as your cloud-based backups all from a single vendor. But an alternative way that we're actually seeing some people look at it is cloud may actually be the primary storage. That may be where kind of most of the backups ultimately wind up living. And the local stuff is almost like a local cache. So you can almost look at turning it around. And we're starting to see some customers look at it in that way. I'm only holding local what I need to hold local to do a fast recover. All of my other stuff that I'm holding for compliance or regulatory reasons is being pushed up in the cloud. So particularly for somebody who's trying to get away from tape, it's a really great solution to do that.
Sure. Now, Adam, what's kind of your experience been like? I think for a lot of IT pros, that move to the cloud can seem like a pretty big paradigm shift. What was, how was that for you guys? Was that a fairly easy decision to make, or were there kind of some hurdles that you guys had to go through to get there?
Yeah, I mean, I think we had to overcome, all the normal questions and concerns as far as, security, basically us not holding onto the data anymore. It's basically someone else that's holding our data. And also, I mean, just, the sheer amount of data, how long of retention we can keep. But I mean, if you asked me, 3 or 4 years ago what I thought about replicating to the cloud or having a cloud backup solution, it'd be a lot different conversation than asking me today. A lot of the cloud solutions, that Katie mentioned, as far as like Amazon, Google, Unitrends, all of them have to comply with the same sort of regulations as far as data retention, having proper security, encryption, and all that. So that alleviates a lot of the concerns. So when we actually did pull the trigger to switch over to the Unitrends model, a lot of that was already at ease, and basically we already had the backing of the owners because they realized that the technology evolved to the point where it did make sense.
Yeah, it's interesting. Security seems to be one of the things that we hear probably most often, and other cloud vendors hear most often. And it's one of those things that it's a legitimate concern, but it's also something that may be a little bit overblown. It's almost like what 10, 15 years ago when people were hesitant to use their credit card, their debit cards to basically make purchases over the internet. Now nobody thinks twice of it because there's now systems that are put in place that are secure, and it's been proven to be a secure method of payment. I think if we look at cloud backup, most clouds like ours, we have, our cloud data centers have 24/7 security. They all have biometric security. They're locked down tighter than almost anybody else's data centers are probably themselves. So you should probably feel as secure as having your data in the cloud as you would in your own data center, because you likely probably don't have 24/7 guards like we do on our clouds.
And another thing to keep in mind is that it also takes out a lot of the risk that people take in by having people move data around, whether it's by tape or having to press the replication button. By having it automated, makes that process, it takes the human risk part out of it.
We're getting some questions from the audience that I was hoping we'd be able to ask. This one actually is for Adam, and this comes from Fred. And he's asking, how much data are you replicating to the Unitrends cloud?
So the overall data that we replicate to the clouds, I think total is right around, I want to say 18 terabytes, but it actually compresses down to, I think it's right around 10.5 terabytes. I mean, majority of that is after the initial seeding. It's basically just doing the delta changes, and basically it'll compile the full masters on the back end so that you're never pushing 10 terabytes at a time each week. It's basically just compiling it on their end.
Adam, did you use our seeding service, our physical seeding service, when you initially did the initial seed?
Yeah, so I went through both of our appliances. We ended up doing the rapid seed, where basically we pushed the archives over to the seeds and then shift them back and then let them seed on your end.
Tony, I have a question for you. You know, we've been talking a lot about cloud. Obviously, you guys work for a financial institution. Was that anything that you guys had considered or looked into?
Yeah, you know, it comes up every year. We talk to our auditors, and they're just not ready to give the green light on it yet. I know different auditors are a little more lenient or a little more open to some things than others are. But yeah, we just haven't gotten the green light from them or any, you know, sort of a warm fuzzy for them. So of course we err on the side of caution and we don't do it. And that's just one of those things where if the auditors say no, I'm not going to push the subject.
Now, Katie, can you tell us, I mean, do you guys work with a lot of financial institutions, and kind of what advice do you guys give to them as far as their interaction with the cloud?
We do work with a number of financial institutions, medical, you know, all kinds of different companies that have regulatory impacts, much like Tony does.
Healthcare.
And healthcare, yeah, I said, yeah, and education. There's a ton of them that really have a lot of regulations that would prevent them from maybe looking at the cloud. But what we tell them to do is to, you know, talk to the regulators, see what we'll keep them in compliance, and go from there. Our cloud centers are, we do have top-level security, not only in terms of physical guards, but also making sure that they're in compliance with HIPAA, with Sarbanes-Oxley, all of those sorts of things. So we are ready. It's just a matter of if the customer is ready and comfortable with doing it.
Okay. Cool. I have another question from Carol. This is for Unitrends, and she asks, where is the, quote, cloud? Does this stay in your country of origin, or is how is the location handled?
I can answer that. So Unitrends actually has clouds spun up in 5 countries around the globe. So we have our cloud operating in the United States, in Canada, in Germany, UK, and Australia. In the U.S., since I'm guessing most people on this call at this time of day are probably U.S.-based, we have data centers in a couple different places around the country. We have one in Florida, we have one in Chicago, we have one in Denver, and we will make sure that your data sovereignty, if you're concerned about the data leaving the country, we will keep your data within a particular environment. Really, what you're doing is almost the same thing as what Tony's actually doing with his environment, where he's actually replicating from one appliance to the other. That's almost the same thing that you're doing with the Unitrends cloud. So you're actually replicating from your appliance, you're replicating into our cloud, and we do actually move a second copy of your data to a secondary location, just so that if something were to happen in our data center, we wouldn't want to lose your copy of data. So we have geo-redundancy built into our cloud, as well as all the availability checks so that we can deliver 5 nines of availability and all the other things that you'd expect from a cloud. So it's a very rich offer that has been built up over the past couple of years. That includes not only the cloud storage, but Katie also talked about our disaster recovery as a service. So you can actually use, once you actually have your backups in our cloud, you can actually use those backups and that data to spin up your critical VMs or critical Windows workloads using the compute resources in our cloud to get you back up in line with the 1-hour SLA if you do have a disaster.
So they'll actually be running the production failover in the cloud off your guys' infrastructure. But what are some of kind of the alternative ways to restore from the cloud at that point? Do they have to re-download the content back from the cloud, or how does it work?
Yeah, if it's a smaller amount of data, they pull it back over the WAN down into their data, into their appliance, just as they would have pushed it out. If it's a large amount of data, or if perhaps they've lost their entire Unitrends appliance, perhaps their entire building, had something horrific happen to it, we'll actually package together either a new appliance or put the data actually on disk and ship it back to them, so that they're not trying to, if Adam had to pull down 18 terabytes, I imagine you probably have a pretty good connection, but even still, it probably would take you weeks to pull down that amount of data, even over a very high-speed connection. So we can reduce your RPO from weeks down into basically a day to get you back up and running if you do have a disaster. But for smaller amounts, it'll go back over the WAN.
And one thing to keep in mind with all of that is that there's no additional charge from us to do those things. Like if we're sending you a new physical appliance, we're not going to charge you an additional fee to put the data back on to your new appliance. It just goes on there as part of the support package that is purchased by like Adam. So it's definitely the worst thing that we could do is to charge you again to be able to get your data back when you're in the middle of a serious disaster for your environment.
Follow-up question from Carol. Carol's asking a lot of questions, so I want to make sure we're getting to them all. But so I think you might have already answered this, but she asked, so how fast could we spin up a VM from the cloud? I think you guys said about an hour. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, we have an SLA, a guaranteed SLA of 1 hour from the time that you call us and declare your disaster. We'll have your VM up within an hour.
And I will ask Carol's other question, and this one actually goes to the IT pros, Adam and Tony. She asked, how long has recovery taken, and what method was used for those of you that have had to recover? Have either of you guys had to recover from a disaster using Unitrends?
I've blown up a server myself on accident and had to restore from a backup. Luckily, it was just one of my monitoring servers, so it was if anybody's familiar with Nagios, you host something up, and sometimes it's easier just to restore rather than figuring out what you did. And it took, not that long. It's a VM, so it was, send it over, copy the data. It's all local, so it didn't take much time. Restoring files is nothing. It all depends on how big the file is. If you have to go and get your archive and, import your archive and all that, that can take a little bit of time. But really, I haven't had any issues recovering anything time-wise. It's all pretty quick.
Yeah. What are the?
I have my steps documented too, so I don't even have to think about it. I open the document and I just follow along step by step. So that makes it easier.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't had to actually, do a disaster recovery or anything like that. Knock on wood. But we have tested recovery of a lab VM, which went fine. And as far as normal restores, I can recover, a few hundred gigs in probably about 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe, compared to hours upon hours with our old solution. So.
Yeah.
What to touch on with what Tony just said about pulling down his disaster recovery plan, like picking up a document. We also offer a free business continuity disaster recovery planning tool that keeps all of those documents in the cloud. So, if Tony's on vacation, somebody calls him and says, I need to know how to restore these files, that file is on his computer, that's not really helpful. So he can pull that information, if he stores it on the BCDR link, he can store that information in the cloud, pull it back down, access it from anywhere, and that way he has documentation that's not just available to him, but to other key stakeholders in the environment.
Yeah, that's a free tool. It's available at on the web at bcdrlink.com. So you help get your plan documented and stored securely in a place where you can always access it. The other thing that we actually have that allows you to have absolute confidence that you're going to be able to recover and that you're going to be able to meet whatever your RPO and RTO goals actually are. We have our reliable DR product, which is what we call recovery assurance, which allows you to automate the testing of your DR and your backups so that rather than testing once a year or once every 6 months and hoping that your production environment and your DR environment is staying in sync, we can automate that testing to run every couple hours, once a day, and basically send you a report where we've actually, in a sandbox, without affecting your production environment at all, validated that whatever your RPO and RTO goals have been set, in actuality that they are being hit and that you are going to be able to recover. And we actually kind of bundle up that environment into a certified recovery point so if you're going home at night, if I have a disaster over night, that with a single push of a button, I can basically recover. So that's the other thing that's available, and that's available both in our cloud, or you can actually run it in your own environment as well. It doesn't have to actually be strictly in the Unitrends cloud. You can run it in any VMware or Hyper-V or now physical Windows system.
Actually, I have a question for Katie or Dave in Unitrends. You know, we've been talking this whole time about the Unitrends cloud, but you guys also support backup to Google and Amazon Web Services as well. Are there any differences between the way that the Unitrends cloud works? Any kind of trade-offs? Or is it really just the customer preference, which cloud you back up to?
There's some pretty significant differences.
Yeah.
You know, we do provide, and we are one of the few vendors that actually provide both, you know, the ability to, you know, create your own private cloud and back up to that, or work with an MSP, or we have our own cloud, as well as provide this hypervisor or hyperscale cloud backup. But if you're using Google or Amazon, you're pretty much on your own. You're responsible for that storage. You're responsible for purchasing it. You're responsible for maintaining it. You lose a lot of the capabilities that we have. Amazon, they now have a snowball little thing that they call an appliance that you can do seeding. But you know, the seeding that we do to get you up and running fast, the white glove service that basically helps you configure the environment and set up your DR environment and test it. You know, having somebody that's going to be there at 2 o'clock in the morning in cloud ops when something goes wrong. You know, none of that is there with the hyperscale environments. So the other thing is our cloud environment is designed to be a backup environment. It's designed for backup and recovery. So while our list price for backup is 10 cents a gigabyte per month, and you could actually go to a Google or an Amazon Glacier or Nearline and get 1 cent per gigabyte per month storage, over time, as you put multiple copies of your backup and your amount of storage that you're using consumes and grows, your fees start adding up. They also charge you for every time you want to access your data. Every time you want to pull your data out, they charge you a network fee. None of those fees actually apply when you're actually dealing with Unitrends. So over time, within about a year, maybe 14 months, our solution, even at 10x their cost, actually becomes more cost effective. Because the way we're only charging you for the amount of data that you're protecting with our Forever Cloud. So it can be a very cost-effective as well as much easier solution than actually going to the hyperscale clouds.
I think really the big part of it is not so much my ease of use for putting data up in the cloud, but it comes down to when it's time for me to use that data, how hard is it for me to get to it? How hard is it for me to pull that data back down, and how hard is it for me to restore that data? And I think that, you know, the whole reason we do backup and the whole reason that we replicate is to protect ourselves in the event of the one time that we really, really need it. So for that one time, is the aggravation, you know, the aggravation is not worth it, at least to me. I would like to know that I could get it back down pretty quickly and easily, and that if I've had a fire or flood, that, you know, I'm going to get all of my data back on my new appliance when it ships to me. Like, there's so many things that disaster recovery as a service that just make utilizing Unitrends cloud really just so many benefits to it. But there are so many, you know, but we do encourage people that if they want to stay with our Google Cloud or stay with Amazon to go for it. Everybody has their different comfort levels, which is why we give so many people different options.
We also have another alternative solution that we actually sell under a brand name of Boomerang that actually allows you to use Amazon as a DR environment. And what Boomerang actually does is it makes it easy for you to move VMware workloads into an Amazon environment and back. And we handle all the kind of machine transformations of what's different between those two different environments. So it's another way of actually kind of replicating data from a VMware environment into an Amazon environment, and then actually turn on your Amazon environment when you need to in a DR. So it's another solution. If you're interested in that, if you're really an Amazon shop, it's worth taking a look at vmboomerang.com.
We're having some questions I got around failover. I got a question from Troy who asked, how is the infrastructure set up to fail over from your local environment to the cloud environment?
So
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's the way it works is you're essentially replicating, as Adam said, you're kind of doing incremental updates to the cloud. So your cloud environment's being kept up pretty much in sync with what's on the local appliance. If you actually want to fail over, it's a single phone call into our cloud operations team. You declare the disaster, and they basically take over from there. They handle everything. So that's how we basically get the 1 hour SLA. And, prior to that happening, the cloud ops team has probably worked with you to test out the environment, make sure it's set up, it's meeting your expectations, so that when you do have to fail over, you'll know that it's going to work properly.
And then another option, if you don't need to fail over in our cloud and you're trying to fail over internally in your environment, we also offer VMware and Windows clients. We call it instant recovery of those clients, and you can do that right on your local clients. Tony and Adam, have either of you had to use that to fail over a client really quickly in your environment? No,
nope.
Some head shaking. That's good, but it's just another feature that if you only have a single client that's gone down and you need to fail over just that one client, or maybe it's 5 clients, whatever it is, you decide what that number is. Then you can easily do that on your appliance. You don't have to have extra hardware sitting around. You don't have to have an extra socket sitting around. You just fail it over right on your Unitrends implementation, and you're off and running.
Yeah, we essentially live migrate the workload, but instead of kind of vMotioning it to a separate storage, you vMotion it to basically the appliance to use as your storage. Or if you have a physical appliance from us, the recovery series appliance, you can actually run the workload actually on the appliance while you do the restore of your production environment and then fail it back. It's pretty neat technology. And that typically only takes a couple minutes, about 3 to 5 minutes to actually fail over in that particular case.
Just make sure you've sized your appliance accordingly if you plan on doing that.
True.
Yes. And the reason that is you just have to make sure that you have the right space that you can actually fail it over on, that you need to have the processors and all that ready to go.
Memory.
So, the memory, all of the resources that you would need to run a VM on the appliance itself not being used by the backup processes or the replication processes. The physical appliances are only so big, and we have to make sure that we're allocating space correctly.
I've got a couple of questions from Dave Gunther, who keeps begging me to talk about bandwidth requirements. His question is, the recovery from the cloud under 1 hour, does that require any sort of bandwidth requirements around that?
Well, the recovery from the cloud, when we're saying 1 hour, that's really recovering in the cloud. So we're recovering the VM actually inside the Unitrends cloud. So if you're actually talking about recovering and getting all of your data back onto your local environment, that's going to be completely dependent on your bandwidth. And to be honest, that's going to be it depends on what type of network you actually have between and how much data you actually have. As I was saying with Adam, one of the reasons why we do physical seeding both into the cloud as well as sometimes overnight disks to customers to get their data back is putting terabytes and terabytes of data through a WAN connection can take days or weeks, depending on what your connection is. Your mileage may vary, as they say, when it comes to WANs.
And Dave also asked if I could put on the Brady Bunch theme and have us look around like they did the Brady Bunch. We'd have to pay for the licensing of that song, and I feel like that would not be within our budget.
God, I think I'm in the Marcia Square. That's scary.
One other question, and another interesting one is also from Dave, but also Arindam. And they're asking about retention. I think they work in organizations where you actually can't keep everything for forever. How does that work? And Dave also asked, how do I provide an audit trail to compliance officers when data is expired that it's actually gone from the backup location?
Well, Tony, how long do you have to keep your data for, really quickly?
We don't really. Personally, I like 2 months of data stored locally, just because people come, hey, 6 weeks ago I deleted this file, can you get it back, rather than going through and trying to get it from my replicated data or pulling an archive. 2 months, it's plenty of history for us. So,
And
but
then
I had to size the appliance appropriately for that. I needed to really do the math and make sure I had enough space for that.
And then
So
do you keep your data longer on archives?
Yeah, we archive weekly, monthly, and then we have a year-end archive.
Okay.
So yeah, beyond that, we when required by law, we journal our email off-site, third-party. So if there's ever a lawsuit or something, they can go right to that company, and I don't have to even deal with it. I don't have to think about it. So.
So Tony is actually a great example of how you can set different retention requirements. You can say, I want to keep 60 days of data in-house or in the cloud, depending on where you want to keep it. And then if for longer-term retention, I'm going to archive it off. And again, you can do that in the Forever Cloud, keep it up there for as long as you want. Or you can archive it to removable drives or removable tapes and keep that in a secure off-site location. Maybe it's a bank vault, or maybe it's using a service like Iron Mountain. There's a number of different ways that you can meet compliance, and I think it really comes down to, again, what's comfortable for you. Do I want to keep it all up in the cloud, or am I more comfortable keeping it on hard drives I can physically go and pick up myself? And I think that's really a conversation you have to have with other people in your environment as to what makes the most sense for you.
And the retention policy, that's not across the board. You can choose what servers have longer retention than other ones. I have my like small monitoring servers. I keep like 3 backups of them, because if I screwed up more than 3 backups, I'm just in a world of hurt anyway. So.
Yeah, and again, that goes back to that flexibility that we can back up whatever we want whenever we want it. We can keep it for as long as we want, so that you are meeting your retention requirements. Maybe your email server, you need to keep it for 7 years. If you're in healthcare, you obviously have to keep those healthcare records for 7 years, but maybe you don't really care about the documents. Your file server, maybe you only need to keep that for a year. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to decide, okay, this archive stays for this long, this archive stays for that long, and that data can go bye-bye. So lots of choices there.
I've got another question from Dave, and he asked a lot of great questions. Thanks, Dave. And he's asking about the Unitrends support during the initial setup. He said that he had recently used a competitor's product, backups failed, and he had to go through a bunch of steps just to get the support to fix what should have been simple to implement. So can you guys talk about what the initial support is like during the setup of it? And actually, Tony, you're raising your hand.
Yeah.
I just went through this in December. We moved to new appliances. We got rid of all the older generation appliances, got the latest, which upsets me because I was a month behind the latest and greatest. You guys released it just after I bought it. So, but yeah, I had a technician assigned to my case. I had his direct numbers, direct email. We were back and forth to back up our existing data off our old appliances, set up the new ones, migrate everything over. It wasn't an easy process, but it was something where I had someone dedicated to me that I could talk to at any time about anything, and it worked out well.
And to go into that, there are multiple ways to connect with our support team. You can connect with us via email, phone, chat. We also have an online support community. So really, any way that you want to connect with us, we're open to it. And as Tony said, we do have dedicated people that are assigned to specific new customers as they come in. And then after that initial installation period, then customers just call in or email into the support team to get support as needed.
All right. Well, we are starting to run out of time, and I want to make sure that folks are getting their questions answered. So we're going to try to go through these real quickly. I've got a question from Brian. And he asked, how large is the Unitrends pipe, and do you guys charge more or less based off using their pipe?
How large is the Unitrends, like the network pipe?
Yeah.
Well, it's really more dependent on what the customer's pipe is into us. We're essentially going into very high-end data centers, so the limit's probably not going to be on our side. It'll more likely be on the customer side. That's really not much of a concern.
Okay. I've got a question from John who asks, can you talk a little about Unitrends versus Aperture?
Yeah. I'll let you go. I feel like I've been talking about it, so I'll let you go.
Yeah, I think if you look at Aperture, I think disregarding the fact of what's going on with the company in general, and actually there was a post put out this morning from them that they were talking about potentially spinning off a bunch of those things to potentially pay for the acquisition that they're going through. There's a lot of uncertainty there, but disregarding that, I think we have a much more complete integrated solution end-to-end, a lot more functionality. The services and customer approval rates are much higher. We have a cloud offer that they do not. We provide a lot more flexibility than they provide. I think I can go on, but in the interest of time, we'll kind of leave it there.
Okay. Anything to add, Katie? Were you going to say anything else?
I mean, I was going to say that there's just a lot more, again, back to the flexibility, that there's a lot of flexibility with us that, we're not so rigid. You can do software, you can do physical appliances, you can package it cloud. There's just a lot more options. And I think that, those are things that when you're talking about changing environments, as time goes on, your environment changes. I think Tony's business has been with us for, I think, 2 years now, 3 years. And
I think 4. I think it was here almost a year before I started, so yeah, 4 years.
And Tony, does your environment look the same today as it did when you started?
No, we were all physical when I started, and we moved to virtual, and we didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, so I think
except more bigger appliances.
I think that being able, since no one can predict the future as to how your environment's going to look in a couple of years, I think having a solution that's going to be flexible with you is really huge.
All right. Question from John, who's asking, does Unitrends support monthly backups to RDX drives?
So it sounds like he wants to do an archive to an RDX drive, and I don't know why that wouldn't be a good thing to do. Tony, are you archiving to tape or to drive?
To drive. Yeah, we don't do tape.
Okay. So, and any issues doing a monthly archive?
Oh, no. I don't know what an RDX drive is, so I guess I'm not familiar with that acronym or whatever. Yeah, we have the 1U Unitrends rack-mounted, 4-bay, archive unit, and I just slap the monthly drive in, mount it. I have a schedule that I just enable, and it backs it up, or it archives it. Same thing with weekly, same thing with yearly. I just have individual schedules, labels on the front of the drives, and put whatever one I need in there.
Yeah, so I think that unless there's some specific sort of connection for the RDX drive that maybe he's asking about, there shouldn't be any issue there.
Okay. I've got a question from Case, who asks, we're upgrading our environment to 10 gig, and we're told that the license for our Unitrends appliance needs to be changed for the 10 gig network card to work. Is the 1 gig card disabled when that happens, and if so, can it be enabled as a failover?
That is not a question I know that I feel comfortable answering without knowing a little bit more.
Okay.
Dave, do you know?
I am not. Yeah, I'd want support to actually give an official answer. Just
okay, no problem.
Not sure where the. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
I would hate for us to say. I would hate for us to say yes or no either way and that be the wrong answer. So we can actually have somebody follow up with, I think you said her name was Kate. We can absolutely have somebody follow up with Kate.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of options and for different cards, and depending on which model you're talking about, and there's a lot of variables here. So just follow up with us, and we'll get you a real answer.
Question from Joseph. Can you get Unitrends to make an annual full snapshot and get rid of the Delta snapshots that are over some years old?
Yeah, we kind of automatically do that as we go anyways. We do kind of what we call synthetic fulls, but essentially it's not done. It's done kind of on an as-needed basis. So as we kind of are doing incrementals forever, there's a certain point in time when the software will basically say, oh, it's time to actually kind of crunch a bunch of these up so that I can actually have a faster restore so I don't have to go through a bunch of incrementals. And that's kind of the logic that's built into the software automatically. Our kind of deduplication and inline deduplication, we've recently done some improvements to that, so we get very, very good compression and deduplication on our appliances. We're actually seeing upwards of 20 to 30% better than almost everybody else that actually has dedupe on their appliances with our latest release that we just put out in the market last week.
All right, well, guys, thank you so much for all your questions. We are running out of time, but actually, I have time for one last question. This one goes to Adam. It comes from Slava, who asks, so as members of the Spiceworks community, can we get discounts on gear from 47 brands?
I actually just posted a link last week. We were just having a friends and family event, so that was 40% off, but it was only good to the first. But keep your eyes open for next year, because I'm sure we'll have the same thing going on. So you'll see some gear, and also look Black Friday. Definitely, you'll see some good discounts.
Follow Adam Gaduri in the community to make sure that you don't miss any of it. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I did want to give you guys one last opportunity to kind of share any final thoughts. Tony, do you have any final pieces of advice that you can share with the folks that are watching today?
My biggest thing is test your backups, test them often, document what you've done, because when a disaster happens, you lose your brain. You don't want to go researching, oh, I saw that somewhere on the internet, I'm trying to find out Google where you found it. Just document everything step by step, make it easy, make it so easy your boss can do it, you know, because, yeah, when you're on vacation, you don't want your boss calling you to restore a file. So,
good point.
All right, and Adam, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, along the same lines as Tony, I mean, just make sure that you're testing everything, documentation, and on the initial setups, and as you go, revisiting how your backup is set up, make sure you're working with the support to make sure it's best practices for your environment, not necessarily what you think is best, but they're going to know the appliance inside and out, so just working with them to make sure you're getting the best performance and best retention out of the appliance.
And Dave, any final takeaways that you want the folks that are watching today to walk away with?
The main thing is, I don't know if people have noticed, behind Katie and I, we both have kind of these little stand-ups that basically say, we want you to recover more than just your data. What we mean by that is we're really here to be your committed partner. We're here to basically try and make your lives a little bit easier, a little bit better. Basically have backup be something that kind of drops into the background. And if you look at a lot of the stuff that we're doing with new user interfaces, new capabilities, that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to make this so that you guys can go focus on your real jobs. And your real job probably isn't, oh boy, I get to go in and do the backups today. I'm sure nobody says that. So that's what we're here for. So hopefully we can work through more in the future.
I just thought that was the art that Katie had hanging up at her house, but
no, not today. And then if I can add on that a little bit more, I think one of the things that a lot of us forget to do is we forget to get buy-in from the key stakeholders of our environment, finding out what do they really expect, what RTO and RTO are they really looking for, so that you can make sure that you're in compliance with those expectations. Because a non-IT person doesn't understand when you say they have to go pull the archives to get the data back up. They don't understand what that means. They don't care. They just want their data back up and running when they want it. So working with, whether it's your manager or whether it's the owner of the company, to really understand what their expectations are, so that you're always in compliance with those, I think is really a huge thing to give yourself peace of mind as you're trying to recover data and select the data protection solution. Those are things I would make sure that you do as well.
All right, and for folks who want more information about the Unitrends products we've talked about today, where's the best place for them to go, Katie?
They can just go right to our website, unitrends.com. Also, if they're in the Spiceworks community and they have a specific question, they can definitely message us there or post in the community. I'm always, unless I'm on something like this, happy to answer those questions. Those are, I think, are probably the two best places to go to learn more about Unitrends.
Okay, great. Yeah, and, for folks that we didn't get a chance to answer your questions, definitely reach out to Katie in the community. She'll be happy to get you guys set up there. Well, it's about that time of the show. Thanks for everyone who stuck around. We're about to announce our winners, and I was just notified that we actually have 2 prizes that we're giving away. They're both Amazon gift cards. Is that right? Yes, I'm getting the nod. Yes. So our first winner, the $150 Amazon gift card, is Isaac Reutman. Isaac Reutman. Congratulations. And our second winner is going to be Craig Spirizzi. Sorry for butchering your name. Craig Spirizzi. Both of you guys, Isaac and Craig, congratulations to you guys. Super jealous of both of you just in time for Christmas holiday shopping. Definitely reach out to me in the community. I'll post a link to my profile and let me know what address that you want me to ship it to. So congratulations, Craig and Isaac again. Well, Katie, Dave, Adam, Tony, you guys were awesome. I hope you guys had a good time. Would love to have you guys back sometime soon. And hope you guys definitely learned a lot, because I sure did too. So but thanks again to everyone for joining us today, hanging out with the chat. Thanks to everyone who asked such great questions. Definitely check out to see other events that we've got going on, and don't forget to test your backups. And in the words of Aaron Rodgers, RELAX, relax, as long as you've got those backups going. But we'll see you guys back here next time. Till then, keep it spicy, guys. Stay safe, and we'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.